Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today and spending your lunch hours with us. I'm really excited about the discussion that we're having today. This is the second of our webinars as part of our series in partnership with Santander. These are the business breakthrough events, and we are really delighted to have an excellent special guest with us today, who is Eamon Fitzgerald, the Managing Director of UK of Naked Wines. Naked Wines is a company that have been really kind of tracking throughout their kind of progress. We covered them very early on Smarta. They won an award with us, and we covered them and had the founder, Rowan Gormley, speak at many of our events and keep us regularly updated of where the business is going. And Eamon has kind of taken that mantle both in the company and with Smarta as well, and continued to update us on the company's growth, really, which has been spectacular and really fascinating as a learning experience for us all to kind of watch him from the outside. So it's a wonderful opportunity here for everybody connected with the business breakthrough events and Smarta to be able to kind of get it from the horse's mouth and the inside track almost today. So the discussion for the webinar is strategies for scalable growth. Scale is definitely what Naked Wines have been doing for the last few years. So I think we've got a fascinating hour ahead of us. Eamon, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Could you just start by kind of introducing yourself, a bit of your background, and when you got involved with Naked Wines?
Cool. Thanks, Matt, and thanks for having me. Really delighted to spend the next hour in your company. I'm Eamon. I run Naked Wines. I've been doing it for 4 years now. Naked Wines was set up, really born out of the recession. We started in 2008. We launched in the UK. We're based up in Norwich, and 3 years ago we launched in the US and Australia. So today we're in 3 countries. We've got 250,000 customers, which we call angels. We're funding 120 winemakers in 65 places in 13 countries, make about 400 wines, and yeah, the growth has been phenomenal. We believe it's a great story.
Certainly is. Tell us about how the business first started. So I know you weren't directly involved at the start, but can you give us a bit of the context of why Rowan came up with the idea and really what Naked set out to try and achieve? Just give people that kind of backstory.
Sure thing. So the business was founded out of necessity. Rowan had no job. So he basically set up Virgin Wines. Virgin Wines was sold to a competitor. Rowan didn't agree with the direction in which the company was going, so there was a bit of a fallout, and Rowan ended up losing his job. So came up with the wacky idea of starting his own new wine business, and managed to convince 15 of his best staff to come over and start a new wine company. So if you pictured the scene back in 2008, Lehman Brothers had gone bust, Iceland, Ireland, Portugal, all falling apart, and you've got 15 people who are jobless with a blank sheet of paper going, what do we do next? Pretty cute blank faces around the place, and they got a discussion going. They'd all worked in the wine business for a few years now, and they knew that to start a new wine business, and in order to succeed, they would have to be completely different. So they started the question, which was, well, what's everyone else doing wrong, and why is the industry failing the 2 most important people, which are the winemaker and the customer? And looking into it, the wine industry is a crazy place. Like I say, the customer and the winemaker are the people getting screwed, and the big companies, the selling agencies, the marketing agencies are the ones making all the money. So it's just a crazy situation where the 2 most important people are the ones getting screwed. The reason being is wine is it's an inexpensive product to make, but it's a very expensive product to sell. So the wine industry today, if you bought a wine for £5.50, which is the national average, once you're through with duty, taxes, glass, shipping, and then selling and marketing fees and retailer margin, out of a £5.50 bottle of wine, you're left with about 20 pence of actual wine. So as you can imagine, it doesn't taste very good. So the guys looked at, the situation, looked at the industry and said, well, we can't do much about taxes, need to ship the wine, need to put it in glass, but we can certainly do something about the selling and marketing costs of a bottle of wine. So that sounded great. How do we remove the selling and marketing costs from the bottle of wine? Well, the answer was, well, you needed to fund the winemaker, so they didn't have any selling or marketing costs. And who better to do that than the customer? So that sounds great. Get the customers to fund the business. Hold on a second, we don't have any established brands, no one sort of our winemakers, no one sort of our wines. How do you get the customers to trust you with their money in order to fund these winemakers? And the answer was, well, we needed to be completely transparent and trustworthy. Thus, the name Naked was born. So the rest is history, I suppose. And that was the very foundation of the model. A bit of desperation, but a bit of very common business sense, and looking at the competition, looking what was going wrong, and working out how can we create a true virtuous circle for all parties.
It's wonderful, and I think everybody loves the model of Naked, and I think it's it's a fascinating story, and I think it's a wonderful innovation on almost a staid industry, really. What I'm interested in, what really fascinates me is that I imagine that Rowan always had the scale. He always wanted to produce a business with scale, right? But it was very much from the very early days, almost like a humble beginning of having to convince the kind of winemakers and convince the public that this was something that was kind of credible, that was going to grow. But then also, how do you balance that act, basically, is the point that I'm trying to get to, between the early concept, especially when it's the innovative one, and the notion that you're still creating a business model from day one that has real scale and growth potential?
Well, I think the key to it is being transparent and honest with your customers and your suppliers. So, back, I think the launch party, the guys came up with the idea for the business, sounded great. Built a website, built a database, built a data warehouse in 60 days. Had the launch party, set the site live on December 1st, 2008. And once the euphoria of friends and family and grannies had died down of them all getting their orders in, nothing happened. And every day the guys were telling me they'd be sitting in the office watching the order tracker, and nothing would happen, and hours would go by, and just they couldn't figure out what was going wrong. Loads of traffic turning up to the site, people looking around, but ultimately leaving without making a purchase. Maybe they're looking for Naked something else, who knows? But some bright spark had the idea of, well, someone just said, no one's heard of our wines or winemakers, we don't know established brands. Why don't we let the customers talk to each other and let the customers talk to the winemakers, so they can talk to each other, check each other out to see if it's for real, and maybe then we could turn some of that traffic into orders. And as soon as we did that, we appointed some archangels, which were kind of beta users, got them to taste the wines, vouch for the product, got the winemakers online, interacting and chatting to the customers, saying, this is for real, my story is real, this wine does taste great. And suddenly it all took off from there. Spent our first Christmas living in the travel lodge in Northampton, packing boxes for our customers because we couldn't cope with the volume. And 6 years later, we've definitely scaled it. I think the key in the early days, though, is it's high, your variables are high because you've got no scale, you've got no bargaining power. Whereas as though you are small, have a growth plan and stick to that. And once you assume you can hit a certain volume and get those overheads and those variable costs down, you'll only get there by charging customers a big company price in the first place rather than a small company price.
Okay, that's really interesting. So do you know to what degree those kind of there was a 5-year plan in place? Was it always, I guess there was that kind of pivoting and changing and testing the water originally, but was the scale that has happened always forecast from the start?
I would say it definitely wasn't forecasted from the start. An interesting event happened about 2 years in, and this is when I joined the company at this stage. We'd been chatting to a lady called Carmen Stevens, who was the first black female to graduate from winemaking school in South Africa. So this is a really talented winemaker, made wines at this American boutique high-end winery called Eamon in Stellenbosch, South Africa. And literally amazingly talented girl, but like all winemakers, just wanted to get her own name on a label and run her own business and make wines in her own way rather than being dictated to by her boss or her marketing or her agent. So it took us 5 or 6 months to convince Carmen that we were for real. We weren't just messing about. And eventually she said, right, I'm going to give this a go. So we emailed our customers and told them Carmen's story. Again, Carmen, being a black female, even a few years ago, couldn't get an overdraft to start her own business in the industry and society she was in.
Yeah.
So went to our customer saying, can you help Carmen? She really needs your help. And the response was incredible. 2,000 people in just 24 hours raised 120 grand to get Carmen's business going. And she was able to make a range of delicious wines exclusively for our customers. And fast forward 4 years, she's one of our most popular winemakers. So that was the moment in that one day where we're sitting in the office seeing all the messages of goodwill and support coming in from our customers for Carmen, and Carmen on the other end of the phone in tears, not believing what's actually happening to her. I think that was the pivotal moment where we're like, okay, we're onto something possibly big here.
Wow, that's amazing. There seems to be a recurring theme, and from the answer that you gave us before, that almost the kind of the power of the crowd as much as any of the mechanisms of the business. What I actually think that they're one and the same thing. It's something that gave you that initial growth. Is that something that you think that businesses should be looking at, is to kind of empower those ambassadors and have them drive the business forward for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from our perspective, we're a crowd-funded wine business. Our angels chip in £20 a month into their account every month. So, if we're spending their money, it's up to us to go to our customers saying, how do you want it spent, or with you doing this, do you agree? So we're always listening to our customers and seeing what they think of our new ideas. And I mean, the amazing thing about the model, it just wasn't possible 20 years ago or whenever the internet wasn't about, how do you get 2,000 people who don't know each other to come together in support of one special lady, one person who needs some help. And that's through crowdfunding, through the model. And, as I say, it's not possible without the internet, but it's an incredibly powerful thing when you get all these people together to achieve great things.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the kind of data centers you had to put in place, and so kind of what was the technology investment at the start? What needed to be created? And I guess why was the confidence there that you could make those upfront investments before you had the audience?
I'm no techie, but our approach to IT the whole way through has been we do everything in-house. So we've got a great IT director who worked with Rowan at Virgin for years, who's pretty handy at building stuff from scratch. So built all that stuff at the start, the website, always improving it, always doing releases every month based on customer feedback to see how we should improve things. When we launched our first app about 4 years ago, built that ourselves. We have an in-house designing team which design all our labels. We do everything, absolutely everything in-house. It means we can control it. We know when things go wrong, how to fix them, and it's longer term, way more cost efficient and effective. The other thing we do is we're based up in Norwich, which has its drawbacks, obviously being so far from London, but also the great thing about Norwich is you have great quality of life. The staff tend to be very loyal and seem to love their jobs, and you've got a great university nearby, the UEA. So every year we'll pick up 1 or 2 really talented grads coming out of UEA who are IT students, and pick them up and train them up, and very quickly, 2 or 3 years time, we upgrade them to they're superstars.
Brilliant. It's interesting that the in-house versus kind of outsource is an interesting debate, and especially when we're looking to scale, I think it's almost a kind of I think it's become more part of the kind of rhetoric of what businesses should do is to outsource, and we're increasingly encouraged to do that. So it's interesting that you guys have held on to everything and run it yourselves. Is there a point that you think that actually there are some elements of the business that we do need to outsource?
I don't think so. If you talk to our US and Australia offices, they outsource their IT to Norwich, for example. So they don't have IT on site. We do it all centrally from Norwich. And then if you look at customer service or our outbound sales team, I could never outsource that stuff because it's just so important to us. You've got to be there, sitting in beside them every day, feeling the buzz, feeling the chatter. You very quickly get to know what's going on. You get a feel for what's happening in the business, and also you can hop in and listen to calls and chat to customers as well, which is hugely beneficial.
That's really interesting, then. And kind of talk to us about the kind of where growth has really taken off. So one of the things that I'm really interested in how Naked grew so quickly was the kind of the marketing strategies behind distribution and reaching new audiences. Can you talk to us about some of the tactics that were deployed in order for that to happen?
Absolutely. So the way that probably two ways which we grow our angel base: one through word of mouth, and second is through partnerships. So word of mouth is obvious, but what we do as much as possible is spend as much money on the product and on the service. So that's so good. We hope that our angels will then go on and tell their friends about us. And secondly, through partnerships. So we've partnered up with the likes of Jamie Oliver, BBC Good Food, First Direct Bank, Gourmet Society, Trainline, those sort of companies which have customer bases similar to ours. I think back in the start, we knew that, looking at the wine industry, it's probably two extreme ends. One is the supermarket, and it's the bottom end where people buy their 3 for $10 or buy one get one free, and they're happy with the deal, but pretty mediocre wine. And the other end, particularly in London, you're very well served. So with Berry Brothers and some of the independent wine stuff, there's a whole, a large piece in the middle which just really is really untapped, and it's we look at them, and some of our competitors are aiming at that market as well. But really, by partnering with kind of foodie companies or lifestyle companies, we've managed to recruit a customer that isn't like a wine nerd or a wine connoisseur. It's more someone who likes just normal activities. So our top 10 interests of our customers don't include wine. It includes stuff like cooking and eating out and golfing and gardening and stuff. So there's just normal interests where wine's an accessory to the lifestyle rather than a primary interest. So then we can kind of tailor our marketing and our tone to that customer base, because we know they're not interested that there's 2,000 grape varieties in Italy, or 1967 was a particularly weak year for claret. It's more about the Carmen Stevens story, or why a wine tastes delicious, instead of the more nerdy topics.
And how do you track and measure that? So what's the proposition that you put in front of a potential partner to make them want to do that? And then how do you measure that? What technology have you built around that?
I think when you're talking to a partner, it's all about building a virtuous circle. So like we've done with our business model, we've created a great deal for our customers, great deal for our winemakers, and great deal for ourselves. When you're talking to a partner, you want to do the same for them. So what does the partner need, and what do we need? So we're always after growing our company, finding more winemakers, making Naked Wines the best company it can be. To do that, we want more angels that can fund our winemakers. So when talking to partners, how can we work in a way where we give them wine or wine deals, and they give us customers who are likely to go on to become angels? So sort of thing we've done in the past. Worked at the Guardian last year, and gave a wine voucher if the customer took out a digital subscription pack for the newspaper. That's what the Guardian wanted. We're happy to give away a bit of wine and get a good quality customer through it. So it's always working with partners like that to creatively solve their business issues and wine's a great product to do that. So you want to create a win-win situation for all parties.
Cool. And so, can you give us any kind of ideas and the numbers behind that? So, I don't want you to give away anything that's confidential at all, obviously, but just kind of give us some kind of idea of the scale that you were able to achieve through partnerships, because I think it's something that other businesses kind of see the value in, but they don't necessarily know where to start or exactly how it can help them grow.
Yeah, I mean, I think it varies in effectiveness. You might put leaflets in parcels or letters, or you might give away a free case of wine in order to incentivize a service or customer behaviors. So obviously, free case of wine always wins, but there's only a certain amount of free cases you can give away. Leafleting and vouchers work really well, in big volume. And if you can offer a good enough deal for the customer, the partners are generally happy with that as well.
Cool.
I think the third interesting part is it's kind of creating true business partnerships. And one thing we have, which a lot of other companies haven't got, is real powerful stories. So how can a partner, rally their customer base around a winemaker or a particular wine? That's the sort of thing which add real value with. So, I think one aspect is how do you if you're looking to partner with someone and drive new customer acquisition for your business, one thing is how far you can discount the product. In order for people to give it a try. Nothing like people don't trust you until actually and they're willing to pay good money for your product until they've tried it out. Product, so it's quite important to give them a discount or communicate a very real human powerful story that service.
I mean, you were breaking up a little bit then. Have you done anything different? Have you got anyone sitting next to you or anything like that?
No, I'm sitting here. Sorry about
that. Okay, I can hear you now actually. So we'll plow ahead, guys. I'm really keen for you to be able to ask your questions to Eamon and myself if you'd like to as well. There is a questions section on your control panel, so you should be able to just ask a question, type it in there. I can see those questions, and Eamon who's sitting with me can see them as well. So then I'll be able to put them to Eamon, and we can get your questions answered as well. So please get typing those questions now. Don't save it until the last minute, and then we'll run out of time to ask them. So let's please have your questions in. Eamon, so I'm really interested again in we're talking about strategies for scalable growth. So can you tell us what your kind of brief was when you were taking over as managing director? So where were you? What were you brought in for, and what were you charged with doing for the business? What was the next scale of what was the next stage of business for Naked when you joined?
I think my first task when I joined Naked Wines was to try and land some more recognizable winemakers to the company. So we had a bunch of with great stories, but for a new customer coming along, you can be naked, you can be transparent, all you like. But some people like the reassurance of trying a region or a grape or a brand that we've tried before. So we're not going to go down the route of buying established brands. There's wasted marketing and selling money there, so that's not adding to the taste of a wine. But we can go out and land some of the winemakers behind those iconic brands, and create a bit better business, better wines for it. So that was my first task. So literally hit the road. Well, it wasn't an arduous task, but had to travel around Australia, New Zealand, all around Europe, the USA, and try and convince a bunch of winemakers to give up their jobs and come and make wine for Naked. And very early on, a guy called Roddy Soap, who used to make wine at Craigie Range, which is one of the best wineries in New Zealand. He left his day job and came and made wine exclusively for Angels. So that was the first big real coup for us. And once Rod joined on board, either his mates or being a very respected winemaker in the industry, a few other people started getting in touch then rather than us having to do all the chasing. And yeah, fancied a bit of the action too.
Sounds like hard work. One thing that I'm really interested in, and I noticed just when I was reading up on progress of Naked recently, was that you've recently had to cap membership to the Angel group, and so I think you've capped it at 250,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we haven't capped membership of our Angel group at all. We're just slowing the rate at which new customers can become Angels. So it's probably a headache that, as a fast-growing business, you might be in the very lucky position to be growing too fast. We were in that position last year, and we started getting some complaints and just people telling us, why are my favorite wines always out of stock, or why do I have to wait a bit longer when I have an issue and I'm trying to call you up on the phone. And the reality was we were taking on too many new customers and not giving our existing loyal Angels a fair share of what they had invested in. So we launched a waiting list for new customers wanting to become Angels. From our perspective, long-term loyalty beats short-term profits hands down every single time. So put the skids on introducing new Angels in, made all our best wines, our most highly rated, most popular wines, all Angel exclusive. So you landed up with our best customers, had our first access to all of the best wines, and we could only take on new Angels as long as we had the capacity and the wines and the winemakers to deal with them. So it kind of felt like an anti-growth strategy at the time, and it might have been a bit of a risk to do so. You think people might get fed up of why do you want to queue up to join a wine club, but it's turned out to be a real success. I think we've been able to give our existing loyal Angels better service, more availability of their favorite wines. And right now we've got 30,000 people around the world queuing up to become Angels.
That's really, I think that's so interesting. I think the need to temper almost growth when you could go quicker and faster and get bigger and stronger. If it's detrimental to your customer base and that customer experience and the reason that people first bought into you and why you exist as an organisation, your kind of why almost. Not to kind of damage that really is crucial in that growth stage, isn't it? I think we've all bought into brands early on as customers, and then almost when they've grown a little bit bigger or got and kind of, I guess, perceptionally got more successful, we felt that connection has slipped away. Is that something you've been very careful to guard against then?
It's something we're very careful to guard against. Yeah, I mean, our customers, they're why we exist. Without their money every month, we couldn't fund our winemakers. So if we hear noises from them, if they give us feedback, we'll listen very, very carefully. And as I say, long-term loyalty beats short-term gain every time.
Okay, I have got an avalanche of questions now, so we're going to get through these. You can never tell if it's going to be like one of those instances where nobody puts their hand up in the room, but that's definitely not the case today. We're going to start with the first one that came in, and it's somebody that I'm sure a lot of people will recognise. It's Fraser Doherty, who is the founder of Superjam. Are you familiar with Superjam, Eamon?
Superjam?
Superjam. So he runs.
Superjam. I'm not. No.
Yeah, a great jam company. He's a friend of Smarta's, has won many of our awards. Super successful business. He wants to thank you for a great session so far, and would like any advice on calculating and predicting the lifetime value of customers.
Pretty simple calculation is how much the customer costs to recruit, and then how much the customer is worth over their lifetime. So how long they stick around for, and how much money you make off that customer in that lifetime. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Are there
So
any
our simple metric we use to measure it, we'll have a cost per new customer, then we know a certain percentage of them will become an angel, so the cost per angel becomes a little bit higher. And then we have a point of maturity, so after 4 months we know that the angel has reached maturity, so that's our cost per mature angel. And then we know exactly on average how long an angel tends to stick around, and as we get older that number gets bigger, and then how much money we make off that angel in that lifetime. So the ROI calculation then is the value of that customer over the lifetime divided by what it costs to recruit that mature customer in the first place.
Okay, brilliant. As we are kind of trying to focus on tech as well, and I know really I think it's that for me is that Naked is a great example of a physical business that's used technology and used the internet to just kind of create something new and awesome. But I've got a very tech-specific question as well from Stephen Daniels. He'd like to know more about the data center, what its purpose is within the Naked structure, and how long it took to build.
The data center took about 6 weeks to build. It was pretty basic at the time, and it gets added on to every week and every month. I don't know the technical specifics behind it, but I know all of my employees have a how-to dummy guide to write SQL. We're very data-driven as an organization. We don't make decisions based on guessing or gut instinct. There's a certain amount of gut instinct, but we make decisions based on data. So if someone's got a great idea, rather than endlessly debating and having endless meetings about it, we say, sounds good, why don't you set up a test and we'll measure it and report against the control, and then come back again in a week and go, well, what have we learned here? Have we got an uplift or not? And if there's an uplift, brilliant, the person's a hero, and we go and make a business change. So yeah, that closeness to data is something which permeates the company. It's in all of our bloods, and we probably seem like a fluffy, fun marketing company on the exterior, but internally there's a very hard data-driven core to everything we do. Whether it's emailing, website changes, functionality changes, everything, absolutely everything is ruthlessly tested.
That's a really nice segue to the next question, really, which has come in from Will Wright, who wants to know about the kind of tactics that are used for customer loyalty, reward schemes, etc. And I'm really interested to know not just what you do for that, but how you automate it as well. So I know as an angel myself, when I've not been purchasing wine, I get really good communications that are obviously automated out from your side. So, how have you built that whole automation of customer loyalty?
We don't automate any of it, actually. It's all done by the team that sits around me in Norwich. We know, obviously, because we're online only, we know exactly how much money people have in their account balances, how recently they visited, how interactive they are. Do they like red wine, do they like white wine, do they spend £7 a bottle or £10 a bottle? So, we've got years and years of really rich data at our fingertips so we can communicate to our customers in the best possible way. That they have, I think, 20,000 rating all their wine products. We've got 3 million down the years. So that gives us a really rich profile of by customer what they like and what they don't like to drink, so we can tailor the communications accordingly.
Cool.
In terms of tactics to improve loyalty, customer service is absolutely huge for us. So we've got a big team called the Customer Happiness Team, which deal with any inbound emails or phone calls, and we incentivize those people not to sell but to serve. So one one tool we use is a feedback tool. So anytime a customer has an issue, whether it's on delivery or wants to order a case, or didn't have enough money that month for their wine, once the agent has dealt with that issue, the customer will get a short email after the call saying, how did the agent handle that call, and please rate it out of 5 stars. And we're then able to take that feedback and give feedback to the agent on how they're performing, but also we incentivize the agent to deliver brilliant service so that the customer gives us great feedback. And if the agent does deliver that great service, we'll pay them for it. It's as simple as that.
Brilliant. I've got a question from Matt Cockcroft at Pure Pet Foods. Guys, we'd love to know the names of your companies as well, so do leave those in the question field as well when you ask a question, and keep the questions coming. He would like to know about the kind of metrics that you track throughout customer usage online with you. So obviously data is huge for you once a customer is in your world, in the Naked Wines world, and it sounds like I imagine the data is just a huge part of your kind of growth strategy. But what kind of tracking do you do when they're yet to log in, and what kind of tactics do you use to encourage people to become members? So Matt particularly references Google Analytics.
Yeah, because we've built our website from scratch and our data warehouses and stuff, our own tracking is pretty good. I haven't a clue how to use Google Analytics. We've 1 or 2 people who are pretty smart at it, but it's not something we live and breathe, rightly or wrongly. We're able to use our own data to see what people are doing, and and we obviously track all the usual stuff: add to basket rate, checkout conversion rate, and all that sort of thing on the website. I think it's important, obviously, to your ultimate goal is orders per session. So any changes which you do to improve that, obviously 50-50 split test, absolutely everything, and we're able to live and breathe the data and make improvements or take back bad ideas when they happen.
Cool. Chris Hewitt, who runs 8.9, and a couple of other people have asked around the crowdfunding element of the business, and so they're asking if you could just explain a little bit more how that works at a time, and whether the model would have been different for you. And I imagine it wouldn't have been, but whether it would have been different for you if you'd have been starting the business in 2015, where crowdfunding is now, a really viable option for all startups, majority of startups. And so, what are your kind of views around that?
I mean, I think it's absolutely possible in 2015, just as it was 6 years ago. I think with needs to be at it. A lot of the crowdfunding is done a bit like social media. Is you rely on a third-party website to help you crowdfund, just like people do their social media on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and stuff. By doing it in-house, whether it's running your own social stuff in-house or running our crowdfunding in-house, allows you to control it and be in control of your own destiny. The key is for me, it's the transparency and opening up your supplier base, your customer base, and let them talk to each other. Because again, if you're new and starting off and no one's heard of you and you've got no reputation, I think A, being transparent, and B, guaranteeing that your customer's money is absolutely safe is really important. I guess the third thing is, and what we have is a money back guarantee. So if you don't like a wine, we'll give you your money back, no problem at all. Or if you don't spend your money, you can withdraw that again, no questions asked. So I think people want that peace of mind. I've funded stuff on Kickstarter and either never heard of it again or it turned up and it broke. I had no one to come back to in terms of customer service, or when you try to follow up on it, there's no one's answerable. Kickstarter don't care. The company itself are nowhere to be seen. They've just made a quick buck and run off with it. I think by bringing it in-house, you're accountable to your customers, to yourselves. 3 things, I think: transparency, people's money is safe, and great customer service in case things go wrong is crucial.
And is there any regulations that people need to be aware of if they were to think about kind of operating I guess an in-house crowdfunding element of their businesses?
Not that I'm aware of at the moment. I know 2 years ago we launched a retail bond. It's a bit like King Shays have done Hotel Chocolat. We launched a fine wine bond to our customers. The idea was if you want to taste really sensational wines with age, with our fast-growing business model, that's often quite difficult because all of our good wines get shrunk so quickly because we're growing so fast. So part of it, we solved that with the waiting list, but also we launched this retail bond, and we hope to raise minimum 1 million, probably expected 3 million, and a maximum of 5, and we ended up raising 6.5 million. We were oversubscribed, which is an awesome success, and invested in some amazing fine wines, which that they have landed and are still in the pipeline. We know now we can't do that again. The government have changed regulations, so we'd love to do it again. There's demand to do it, but until the regulations are loosened, there's nothing we can do there.
We've had a couple of questions just asking around funding as well. Was Naked Wines entirely self-funded and customer-funded? And is there a plan ever to kind of take any additional finance in the future?
So we were funded in day one by a German family wine company called WIV. Kind of came about quite luckily at the start. Rowan needed funding to start the business, and WIV wanted a kind of progressive startup arm to their wine business. So they managed to cross paths at exactly the right time. I think they went for a few beers. Andreas, the founder or the CEO of WIV, asked Rowan how much money he wanted. Rowan picked a number completely out of his head, which is 3 million quid, and it just went from there. So very quickly, we obviously were loss making the first couple of years. We're profitable now, and we are financing and self-sustaining now. But we obviously have taken on more investment from the same company since then to grow the company and expand it internationally. So that's where we're at with that.
Cool. So it's almost like almost a corporate venturing investment in a kind of to use a term that's not used much anymore, but I guess it's find someone who's got that again in the same way that you talked about with partnerships, a mutual shared passion for what you're doing and a commercial reason to want to collaborate.
Yeah, for sure, and they've been brilliant. They've invested when we needed it. Very little interference or anything, just being really supportive, and they've been blown away by the success year after year. So it's been great.
Brilliant. So next question we've got is from Will Wright, who runs Beerhawk. He wants to go back to email marketing and said that he thought that conversation was fascinating, but he notices that all emails are signed off by yourself. I can't remember if it was you, Eamon, or if it's Rowan, but he would like to know why that is, and have you always found that this is the most effective way of engaging? That you stick to the rule of serving rather than selling?
Completely. I mean, I sign off the emails. I write a lot of them myself, or we sit in a room chatting like mates to come up with our emails. It's very important to not take yourself too seriously, to have that irreverent, friendly tone, and stick to it. It's for me, and if you look at other brands, I think people trust people rather than people trust brands. And in our case, Naked Wines, yes, we're a good brand, but for us, the real brands are the winemakers. And once you've created that connection between a customer and a winemaker, that human connection which people actually trust, it reaches far deeper than any connection with a brand. I think 2 years ago, Carlos, one of our Spanish winemakers in Rioja, he posted on his wall saying, hey friends, just to give you an update on the harvest, it's been pretty terrible. It's rained non-stop, and as a result, I'm not sure if the wines are going to be great this year. I'll do my best, but just to let you know. And we saw the email come through, and we're like, no, Carlos, what are you doing? You're killing us here. And the response to Carlos's post was amazing. Just dozens of people piling in saying, don't worry, mate, we're behind you, chin up, and we'll support you regardless. And thanks for letting us know. So it just taught us, just be human, be honest, and communicate, openly with your customers. Could you imagine if Coca-Cola or Colgate toothpaste came out to say, oh, just released a dodgy batch, but don't worry, next year they'll be fine. People wouldn't trust it. It just wouldn't fly at all. But because we've managed to create that very personal link, mostly between our winemakers and our customers, and yeah, I'll send a few emails and try have that personal touch as well in the emails. It's so powerful.
That's wonderful, isn't it? And I think that for everybody that's listening in and running those kind of small but really ambitious businesses, for me the advice is always to kind of think big and think scale, like we're talking about, but just get the small things right to get there as well, and keep that small business mentality where you've got a close bond with your customers, because that's your competitive advantage, is exactly as Eamon's just said. And it's one of the things I've really respected about Naked.
Yeah, I think in a day and age where we're more and more connected to our phones and our tablets and our computers 24/7, I think we're actually less emotionally connected with each other than ever, because we spend so much time in the bloody things. So people are turning to businesses that have purpose, that stand for the right reasons. I talked with Paul Lindley of Ella's Kitchen the other night at an event. And, the story was just inspiring. It's so human. And now he's launching a new business. Which again has a very social aspect to it. You got Tom's Shoes, who do that one for one shoe scheme. And then companies like Made.com or BrewDog for beer. All these companies stand for something, and they've got personality. And I think that's just really important for people today. People aren't just looking for a transaction; they're looking for something a bit deeper than that, rather than just coming away with a bottle of wine. It's nice to know that you helped Carmen Stevens get started, or you're supporting these small guys in their vineyards and their families. And actually, if you're not sure about it, or you want to express your thanks, you can go on the website and chat to them, or meet them at a tasting event a couple of times a year when we fly them over.
Absolutely. We've got 2 or more people that have asked about partnerships. So whether it's primarily it's for distribution, but and they were really interested in the point in time where Naked was smaller than the partners that they were approaching. What kind of advice have you got for approaching partners that are a lot larger than you? I guess it's partly getting your foot in the door and getting to the right person, but then also convincing them that this is something that they need to treat seriously and give the full commitment to.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, money obviously helps. So I think when you're talking to partners, it's figuring out what is their goal. Is it revenue? Is it new customers? Is it a loyalty program? Are they looking to surprise and delight their high net worth customers? Whatever it is, you have to try and tailor your product or service around to that. So obviously we've got media budget to spend with partners to insert leaflets or do free wine. We've got a great customer base which if you put the right offer to them, and we never sell our customers' data, but from time to time I'll endorse a really good offer I came across, and our customers really react to that. And also we've got winemakers and awesome wines which we can rock up to an office in and do a tasting and wow, or surprise staff or customers. So I think the key thing is figuring out what is the partner's goal here, and how can you address that.
Okay, we are coming to the end of the questions. So if anyone's got anything that they want to ask Eamon before he disappears, then please shout it up now. We have. I'm getting to the right question. Yeah, we have one from Gareth Evans, who runs Velox.io, and he would like to know about share schemes for employees, and particularly his questions around vesting periods.
Okay, so we have a share scheme for our employees. Our staff own 10% of the business. And it's an incredibly motivating and powerful thing. I definitely recommend it. And for example, the guys who started Naked Wines, the 15 of them, 4 years later, when we made our first £1 million profit, that went to those guys as in the share scheme, but more importantly as a thank you for their hard work and their bravery for leaving their jobs and getting this whole great company started. And you know, it's a real motivating factor for people. I think if you can connect their day job to how it grows the value of the business, and making clear things like you get paid a salary to come in and do your job, you get a bonus for doing your job really well and actually nailing your objectives which you're set, and you get shares and share options to grow the value of the business, which means you need to go above and beyond the day job. If you can make that connection really clear, that's a really powerful motivating thing for people, and it gives people ownership of the company. People really care about how the business is doing, how customers are treated, how the winemakers are getting on, if they've got ownership in it. So we picked 10%. I don't know if it's the right or the wrong number. Obviously, every situation is different. 10% is quite easy to calculate. If you've got a certain valuation of the business, well, us as staff, we own 10% of that. It's easy, and it seems fair. So it's been really powerful for us. And in terms of how investing periods, the guys who started, they got their first payout after 4 years, I think. So long away enough for them to go, right, we can grow this really big and have a nice payout in a few years' time, but also short enough to go, actually, it's tangible. This is attainable in a couple of years if I really work hard.
Yeah. So we have a question from Emma Ray. She some of these issues you've already tackled, but I do think it was an interesting point that she's interested in how you managed to escape the gym membership dilemma of convincing people not just to invest but to be active and spend their money as well.
So how do we do that? Is it?
Yeah. What have you done to make sure that people are regularly spending?
I think probably the key to direct marketing is people buy when they want, not when you want them to. So obviously the subscription business helps. So you top up your account every month with 20 quid. So if you drop an email saying you've got £90 in your account to spend on wine, I've got a case here for 90 quid. Click this button. It'll be at your door tomorrow. That's it's a lot easier job to convert and to get that sale than actually getting people to stump up with that money in the first place. So the subscription model is key there. You're convincing people to spend money they've already given you in a funny way. And secondly, having teams and functionality in place that when the email channel doesn't work, for example, when people are just too busy, we'll just pick up the phone to them saying, listen, you've got this money in your account, you're clearly busy, you haven't been on the site in 6 months, but you like our wine. How about I can see from your profile that you like rosé, you like Sauvignon Blanc, and you like Syrah. I'm going to make a great case up for you, and it'll be with you tomorrow. And people absolutely love that service as well. Another thing which we've looked at probably in the last year or so is the change in customer behavior. So, I mean, if you send emails to your customer base, definitely look at the times of day that you send those emails. I was talking to an email strategy or email provider last year saying 60% of all open rates are now mobile, and that would go towards 80% at the end of the year. And then looking at our data, we were the exact same. So again, tailoring your email send time. We used to send everything out in the morning. Now we're splitting our base and going, right, well, who opens a mobile, who opens a desktop? What's the most convenient time for a customer to receive a communication from us? And again, testing that and measuring it, and when you get an uplift, it's great. You get the sale, and the customer gets a communication from us at a more convenient time for them. So, you definitely, it's not just hammer out a million emails and hope for the best, get your 0.002% conversion. It's being a lot more imaginative and put yourself in the customer's shoes. And I think, when do I normally transact? What do I normally like to drink? How much do I spend? And when is the best time I'm most likely to spend that?
That's wonderful. We are wrapping up now. Adam Williams has given us a great last question, and it ties in with what would have naturally been mine as well. So Adam asks, what is next in the what's the next big idea in the wine world? What lessons can the wine industry learn from more forward-thinking industries? And I would obviously like to know what's next for Naked Wine. So what do the next 12 months look like? What's the 5-year picture?
My goal for the business is to have the best wine shop on the planet, and that means going out and recruiting even better winemakers who've got, from great backgrounds. So we've already started that last year. We landed the guy who made Champagne Ruinart. It's a really famous champagne. The guy who made Penfolds Grange, which is the most expensive bottle of wine in Australia, which costs you $600, and if you bought it, Naked Wines would cost you $15. The vineyard's only across the road. And also finding, the future Carmen Stevens and Katie Jones, and just people who amazingly talented winemakers who might have fallen on a bit of tough luck or need a bit of a hand, and how can we help them? So, from a business perspective, it's all about that. And if we want the best winemakers in the world, we want more angels that we'll go and fund them and go on to fund our winemaking dreams. From a overall business perspective, we're in 3 countries now, US and Australia. We're there 3 years, and it's a lot of fun. It's difficult, but we're seeing learning some great things and growing very fast in those countries too. So I wouldn't say further country expansion is on the table at the moment. The US is a very lucrative market. If we nail that, we've nailed 10 Europes several times over. And then I think, longer term, this is a model which applies to many industries. Any industry where there's an artisan maker and an end consumer, they've always relied on the golden rule with the best winemakers are they're the worst salesmen. They rely on intermediaries to get their product to market. Now this thing called the internet has come along, so that those intermediaries can be bypassed, and you can reach the producer directly as a consumer and pay a sensible price for a great product. And I think we're pioneering that trend, and our customers are asking us, well, love the wine, love the ethos, what else can you do? And that's a question we're currently asking ourselves. I can't say any more at the moment, but I think we're onto something very special, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Brilliant. Thank you, Eamon, and thank you everybody for attending today's webinar. We'll email you a recording of the webinar so you can catch up on it, and we'll also email it to everybody that wasn't able to make it. Thank you for signing up today, and we will be sending you also an email of the key points from today's discussion, and giving you information of future business breakthrough webinars that we'll be running over the course of the year as well. And so, without anything else, I'd just like to thank Eamon again, and wish him the best of luck with Naked, but I'm sure he won't need it because it's a wonderful business, and I'm sure we've all enjoyed listening to it today. So on behalf of Smarta and Santander, thank you to Eamon, thanks to everybody.
Thanks, Matt. It's been a pleasure.